Hello, greetings. It's Mari Smith here. I'm delighted to be joined by the wonderful Darshana Matthews. Welcome, welcome, Darshana. S-
Thank you. Thank you. It's really nice to be here. I'm really happy to share what I can to of my life, of myself, and of this work.
Yes, yes. I just like I got so many places I could start with you.
Mhm.
You are one of the most beloved teachers at the International Human Design School. You have an incredible array of credentials. You teach a lot of the classes. I know the whole array of cosmology, as well as all four of the PTL professional training levels. Is that right? One through four?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I just love it. And so we're going to cover a lot of ground in our conversation here today. And for those folks who don't know, you'll just explain that you're a 3-5 splenic projector. Is that right?
Yeah, I
And
am.
with
Mhm.
only two centers defined, the root and the spleen.
Yeah. What a life, huh?
What a life! Yeah, exactly, with the two channels. Um, and I understand you met human design in 2005. And so even before that, because you have such a beautiful background, I want to talk just a wee bit first about your background. I was listening to some interviews of you in preparation for our conversation today, and we've crossed paths a number of times. We've even had the great joy of meeting in Aura a
Yeah.
few years back in San Diego. But your background is astonishing to me. And one of the things that piqued my interest was that you started your first job at age 15 selling clothes or designer fashion or something.
Mhm. I got the job when I was 15, but I wasn't allowed to work till I was 16.
Okay,
So I had to
okay.
wait until my birthday in order to be officially allowed to work. Yeah, I guess that's the rule then in California.
That was
Um,
California. Yeah.
yeah.
You know, when just real quick, when I heard that, I was like, so I was a year ahead of myself at school. I skipped an elementary grade, and then my older sister, who's 16 months my senior, she and I ended up being the same year throughout all of high school. So I left school at 15 and I went straight into an office. I was an office junior, had my
Wow.
16th birthday at the job. So, but I thought that was so cool. I was here, like, wow, Darshana
Mhm.
started when she's 15. And so then, but you ended up going down a path to train as a professional opera singer and in theater as actress. Would you share a wee bit more about that part of your beginnings?
The thing is, when I had that job at the clothing store, it was women's clothing, and I was actually in the back room. I wasn't selling. I never really
Oh,
sold on the floor,
mm.
because I'm not. When you see my design, you'll say, yeah, she probably couldn't sell things very well. Because the few times I was put on the floor, a lady would say, "Well, how do you think it looks?" And I'd go, "Well, how does it feel for you?"
Good for you. Yeah, yeah.
Because I was sort of like, "I don't think it looks very good, but if it makes you feel good."
Yeah.
And and then those few times that they would put me in on an evening shift on the floor because there wasn't a lot of activity, so they felt safe doing it with me. Mostly I
Mhm.
dressed the windows, I did the displays, I did the back
Ah.
of receiving and stuff. Um, I'd look out the door and I'd look around at this shop and look out the door and I said, if this is my life, I'll die.
Oh no. It wasn't
Because,
fulfilling.
well, yeah, no, because it just, my design really shows that. It was like there was something that had to be adventurous as a third line. It had to be transformational with my channel of transformation. My
Mm,
moon, my personality moon is the 54-4, which is enlightenment and darkenment. I'm driven towards rising up on the most, refined level of
mm,
consciousness and being. And
mm,
so all my steps, I can see in retrospect, were always taking me to something where I felt I was making a contribution to awareness, to wholeness. I came from a
mm,
very abusive home, and my mother was extremely problematic, but damaged. And it touched me deeply that that existed for her. My heart was deeply empathetic with that. And even though I
mm,
also had to do my best to survive it. And and so I wanted to understand why we
mm.
hurt, why we hurt others, why we're lost, why all the whys of that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something where I felt I could bring a bit more ease into somebody's life.
Mm.
So with the singing, I one day I was walking on campus and I just thought, I don't know what to do because I was in archaeology at that point and I had also been studying German civilization. I thought maybe I'd go into diplomatic work. I wanted to travel. I wanted
Wow.
adventures, and I didn't want a boss. And
Hmm.
and I thought, what could I do? And I thought I can sing because I grew up playing the guitar and singing that sort of stuff. And so then looked for a voice coach or voice teacher, and I happened to get the man who had been the I forget at the Chicago Lyric Opera. He had been the musical director or voice director, and had had some opera singers. And so I got directed into the operatic field, and I loved being able to have something so incredibly exquisite and beautiful move through my body and come out into the
Wow.
world. And
Oh,
that's what touched me about it.
wow.
Then circumstances, third line terrible experience with a professor and stuff got me out of the music department. I was there for 2 years and into theater because I thought opera singers need to know how to act because back in
Mm.
those days they were very presentational. And, and then I ended up staying in at first I was a double major, music and drama, and then I just went over into drama, and then I got my Master of Fine Arts in drama, and I went to New York and I worked in television and stage and small stuff, not big stuff,
Hmm.
but just I always would audition for things and look for things where the message underneath my character or the play was understanding of the pain that we experience and
Mm.
that there is a wholeness within us that we can embrace or yeah, be in touch with so
Mm.
that it doesn't have to feel so lonely and so painful. So
Mm.
that's what drove it. It was curious that it seems big and it was from something so simple in me. I wasn't looking for any kind of recognition. I wanted it to be a contribution.
Mm.
So the recognition, if it
Wow.
allowed for me to continue to do work,
Mm.
then then that was successful for me.
Mm. This is such a beautiful and rich and deep sharing or explanation of what it means to be a quote performer. Like it's like this energy is moving through you with your open throat and being able to have all these different levels of expression. With the opera is what drew you, almost brings tears to my eyes. I know when I have the experience of hearing a phenomenal singer and it can literally move you to tears. There's something that awakens inside the self. And so then also how you're describing like the acting in the theater is like there's more to it than like I'm sure a lot of ego drives that for other people. It's like they're thriving off the recognition and the fame and the notoriety, but you've just articulated it so beautifully that it's like it's given me a whole other perspective on what it could mean to be a quote, performer or entertainer or in that kind of realm. And so that because that was your degree, right? You majored in the theater and
I got my bachelor in drama and then a master of fine arts in acting at UC San Diego.
beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
And then I understand like carrying on throughout the ensuing years that you really felt drawn to study just existence and some of what you were saying about the transformation, the awareness, like what makes people tick even. What other kind of studies did you do around that aspect of existence?
On my bachelor's, I minored in religious studies
Oh.
because what I had seen in the world around me was people attaching or embracing or merging with structured religions and dogmas and so on and it became exclusing that's not a word, like embracing something where it was correct for you, but then you would judge the other and say they were wrong. And
Right.
and I couldn't balance that. It didn't make sense to
Mm.
me that anyone could think that there was one way that was correct and that excluded everybody else and they were just going to be lost.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so all the studies that I did, the religious studies was real interesting. It focused primarily on Eastern religions. And because I'd grown in my high school years, I'd been very fervent as in Young Life, which was a youth Christian group,
Oh.
and where we played guitar and sang Kumbaya, and it was very
Mm.
fun. And and then I saw the falsity or the narrowness of those particular choices of people's
Mm.
attachments to different kinds of Christian religions, different expressions of it.
Mhm.
And I just had to understand it. So that was the journey, you know.
I
And so
see.
I met astrology and I kept thinking,
Mm.
how on earth can I be a Cancer, you know, because I'm the sign, astrological sign of Cancer, because the
Mhm.
last thing I wanted, having come from an abusive home, was family and marriage and cooking, and I didn't do any of those things. So
Mhm.
I thought, how can anyone believe in this? So I decided I had to study it to find out what was going on there. And of course, going deeper into the understanding of the mechanics of astrology, revealed it to me that it was all about an
Mm.
imprint and unique qualities that were there. And then it made sense. Um, I went through so many different teachings, you know, working with the Enneagram, working with some other modalities that were bringing psychological or psychotherapy in together with incorporating of soul, or
Mm.
because so many of the mental teachings of psychology don't include the fact that we're consciousness, that we're a soul, you know, we could say.
Mhm.
So that was always the direction finder for me, was how do we understand this mundane reality while also recognizing that we're consciousness and form.
Mm.
And that's what I found with human design, you know,
Mhm.
is that
Mhm.
that's what I teach with human design, and that's my orientation
Mm.
with human design. Is yes, there's these mechanics, and the mechanics free us into the experience of, I have always, not Darshana, but this that is now currently Darshana has always existed
Mm.
and will always exist. And and so there's less fear about living life as
Mm.
a result of that, you know,
Mm.
less fear that, oh, if I don't get this, or if that happens to me and it hurts, or, you know, that I could make more sense of it and see it from a sense of objectivity on some level. It was subjective at the same time. And the other thing I did also was I trained and became a past life therapist. So
Wow.
I traveled around Europe doing groups and teaching and
Huh.
giving sessions. And that also gave me that, like, people would say, "Do you believe in past lives?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know.
Mm.
It seems to work.
Mhm.
Doing the
Mhm.
sessions seems to work for people. You know, it opens something, it relieves some traumas." And I studied trauma work, you know, that
Wow.
because I grew up in a very traumatizing environment. So,
Mm.
you know, what we live in our early years can often take us into where we go to find healing. And
Mm.
and what I
Mm.
lived was narrowness of belief structures that excluded others.
Mm.
That was part of the pain for me,
Mm.
that I saw in the world around me, and the loneliness that creates, even though
Mm.
you might have a real deep sense of bonding with the people who are in your shared belief structure.
Mhm.
um,
Mm.
we're interconnected, you know, with
Mm.
the whole. And if we're exclusive in that way, you know, we're missing a vast part of who we are.
Mm.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
there you go. That was my
Beautiful. Oh, I love it. I love it. I wanted to check in. So you were born in California and did your studies and initial rearing of yourself, and then I think you were in New York, and then I know you're in Denmark now. I'm curious on the path here of the career path. What was occurring in your life, um, career or personal, whatever you feel like sharing, at the moment that you bumped into human design in 2005?
Hmm. Well, I got my master's and then I moved to New York. I lived and worked there for 3 years.
Mm.
And in that work, I could see where I was going. I was successful. I was getting work. I never looked for it being big. I just wanted to do the work. I would have been a working actor. and and that would have been fine. But because I could see it, I didn't need to do it.
Hmm.
And so I bought a one-way ticket for Europe
Oh, I
and
love it.
and just sort of said, let the winds of fate blow my boat. I had no goal.
Mm.
I had no direction.
Wow.
I just knew that was complete and the next, where would I go? And so I had a course that I had been curious about in northern Italy. So I went to that. It was a 5 week course, and I ended up living with that group of people for almost a year.
Wow.
Really beautiful villa on Lago Maggiore in
Mm.
northern Italy. And and then that became really done for me. My body took me away from it.
Mm.
And I wandered about doing in Germany primarily doing the past life therapy and I also worked as a channel and these whole
Oh.
new agey things that were there at the time. And and then one day I went through different processes of questioning staying in life because there was a lot of loneliness as well. And I
Mm.
always saw that it was a choice to stay. And since it was a choice, I could, right? If I always had a
Mm.
choice and I didn't have to feel burdened by it because I always had a choice. And so
Yeah.
then I could just wait and see what was the next thing that would happen.
Hmm.
And I had made a decision to leave Europe, go back to California, start my own theater, and have a child.
Wow.
Just like, okay. And I had never planned to have children. And so all of a sudden I was like, I was approaching my Uranus opposition. And
Okay.
which is the cross of Maya. So I was like being invited into the Maya instead of in my wanderings through the more metaphysical worlds. And and there was this one teacher I wanted to try before I left. So,
Hmm.
and he was up in northern Denmark. And so back in there, these are the old days, there was no mobile phones or
Yeah.
internet really. So I was on bus and trains and this and that up to the northern part of Denmark, where I ended up meeting my husband.
Amazing.
And I continued my work in Germany with the past life work, and we got pregnant almost immediately.
Wow. I
And
love it.
and my baby boy, who's a manifester, emotional manifester, he's on the cross of healing, and
Mm.
he healed me through experiencing unconditional love.
Oh.
That was unexpected. I had
Mm.
no thought that life could include something like that for me.
Oh. It's
And
so exquisite. Go ahead.
yeah, so that shifted a lot. I mean, it really did a shift in the way that I settled in. I was like, I've done everything I want to do in life. There's
Mm.
nothing I want more than to be the mentor, the caretaker of this soul who's in this baby body and support
Oh.
him in growing up to be a man and a fulfilled being here.
Mm.
So for a lot of years, that's what I did. And I supported my husband building a business and then a girlfriend of mine came and she was starting work and teaching another modality, the psychotherapy and soul Sufism.
Mm.
Um, I started working with that in assisting in it and doing training towards being a teacher in it. And then one of the people that were part of that, my environment's a fourth line environment. One of
Mm.
the people that was involved in this work, his girlfriend was a human designer.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so he said, you might be interested in this. And so I took a look at it. And that was in 2005. And that turned, that did the turn. I haven't,
Mm.
I haven't moved into, I mean, I've added two pieces to it. Like I have studied in the course of these years evolutionary astrology and Vedic astrology and dove into trauma work and things that I felt would help to the mechanics of the design as itself is perfect, and we can find through strategy and authority, we can find the movement that takes us into alignment, that which is essentially what healing is, deconditioning and aligning to
Mm.
our truth, to the beauty of who we are.
Yeah.
And I could see that for me, it was important to include in my own self, in my speaking, whether I said it out loud or not, but in the speaking, the way I teach, to include this understanding of trauma and woundedness and
Wow.
prime wounding, that comes
Mm,
from not being recognized and as the beautiful, precious beings that we are. And
mm, mm,
yeah, so that's how human design landed for me was a couple years I did it. I had a background in astrology. I had a background in my religious studies minor. I studied the I Ching
mhm.
and Confucius and all those the Vedic work and Hinduism and Buddhism and so when I met human design and it included the I Ching, it included astrology. I had studied numerology. There was all these elements sort of like and then I'm a bit of a nerd. I love stars and quantum physics and quantum mechanics and I'm not a master of any of that, but I attune to it. It speaks
Mm.
to me.
Yeah, yeah,
So it kind of landed human design for me. I watched it for a couple years, like waiting for what I call the lie. I really always,
yeah.
everything I went into, there was always some kind of ego structure that was behind the teachers that were
Mm,
bringing it forward
mm.
that were, my spleen said, unclean. Yeah.
Wow.
And so with Ra, I mean, his personality, I didn't have that much opportunity to meet him on a personal level,
Mm.
but on a teaching level, it was pure for me. Everything about it was just clean, transcendental. I mean, just it put everything into place. My music background fell in place with the mechanics, all of those things.
Mm. That's amazing. Wow. So did you actually take classes live and in person with Ra?
Not live, I mean in person online, but and
Okay,
also
okay.
I went to Ibiza 2 times and I took all of his classes that he taught on Ibiza. I
Okay,
did the
so
whole
you
I certified as a holistic analyst with Ra.
oh gosh. I took holistic analysis last year with Dr. Andrea. Went through the
Mhm.
DDP, still got to work on my thesis. I love that program. It's utterly fascinating and the magic square on both sides. Wow, so you got to do that in person with Ra. Is that what you're saying? You did
Yeah,
initial.
online in person. Yeah, live, but not in body.
Oh, I see, I see. So had you ever met him? Have you ever met him in Aura?
As I said, I went to Ibiza twice to
Okay, I
the
got
events there.
confused.
Yeah,
Understood. So you have
yeah.
met him in Aura and the trainings that you did were primarily online,
Online, but he offered
not live.
courses for these Ibiza events. There was, were in the room with Rob when he was doing his various topics that he was teaching.
Oh, I can just only imagine that experience. I love that you said you were saying looking for the lie. I heard you say it in another conversation where you're like looking for the agenda, and then like no matter how hard you were looking, it just wasn't there with Ra, and clearly his vehicle and his soul was being used to bring forth this work. And I love his story about the voice penetrating him for those 8 mystical days in on the island of Ibiza. And I believe that he has shared, excuse me, about the 2551. If he didn't have that channel of shock initiation, that he might not have withstood the profound experience of that 8 days. Do
You
you?
know what? I could see that that's the channel that defines his ego center, heart center.
Mm, mm,
And because I have an open heart center with nothing, no activations in it or pointing
mm,
to it. It's
mm,
completely open.
mm,
And so I really observe, have a way of observing what the heart center does that
yeah.
has no personal imprint inside me. It's always coming in from outside.
Mm,
And I would say that it was having the defined ego and being an ego manifester and an individual and all these other elements, but to be able to maintain, and his G, to maintain his will and his sense of self. And perhaps
mm,
even the spleen giving him what was knowing how what is safe and healthy and transformative,
mhm.
because it is about existential awareness, the spleen.
Yes.
Um,
Mhm.
that all those things came together. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
probably that he was a 51 and his personality son, it's like, oh, okay, I can take this shock.
Yeah, yeah, he's in the cross of the clarion. I mean, he really had to sound that clarion horn for the rest of us. Like, there's something here we really need to know, and just all
Aren't
part
we
of the plan.
lucky
We're
on some
so
level?
fortunate.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, and my own story, real brief, is that I first encountered human design, I want to say around 2003, and I was in a completely different career at the time, and I was a bit skeptical. And I don't know, to me, I had a reading, I had a foundation reading, and it just went right over my head, didn't mean anything. And all I could remember from that reading was the analyst said to me, Mara, you have a really busy mind. It's probably hard for you to meditate. And it was hello 6447 abstraction. And I guess it's just really oftentimes it's a matter of timing. It's like when I think about your journey and all of the incredible pieces, almost like the bricks being laid as a foundation. Well, of course, I'm a first line, 1 3 with 10 line one. So I think about these things in foundational terms. But it's like all of these like almost like jigsaw pieces, and then it's like you had all of the pieces except for this one big piece, which was human design. It kind of almost like synthesized all of your
Yeah.
background experience and training, and the work that you had been doing. But anyway, for me, just to finish that story real quick, human design would kind of bob in and out of my life a few times
Mm.
over the next almost 17 years till 2020. And even like people would say, "Oh, Maria, your guts makes decisions. Just watch when you go aha or ah." And to me, it was so mental. I'm like, "What the heck? I'm going to aha ah." It's like I was never really explained or understood like what this felt sense of the sacral energy rising and this response. And then fast forward is winter solstice of 2020, and a dear friend was coming over. I lived in San Diego at the time, and right in the middle of COVID and whatnot. And she just said, "Hey, Mari, my intuitions told me that I was supposed to bring this book to you this morning." She reached into her purse and just showed me this book, and it's a book on human design. And I just like lapped out of my seat, arms flying in the air. Human design! I'm like, "There's books you can study it." And from that moment to this day, I just have immersed myself in studies of utterly fascinating. I know your natal cross is service. My cross of my Chiron cross is service. My natal is explanation. And so then I had been feeling a little dissatisfied with my social media marketing career. Wasn't there's an aspect, I'm connecting the dots here to some of the things that you've been saying. For me, it was like, there's more to Mari's life than just teaching people how to market on Facebook. I want to make a difference. I want to make an impact. I want to help wake people up. I want to help them recognize how amazing they are and to stop the suffering and so on and so forth. So it's like, yeah, when I encountered as a 1 3, I encountered human design. It was like the angels were singing to me. And like I say, I encountered it at the right timing. Is I've got that 214 and six
Yeah.
planets in
Uh,
my 4323, all this individual going, okay, now, Mari, now's the right timing. So I love these stories of how each of us has on the journey, the 4% of us that are really immersed in the world of human design, of how it came into our lives. And so let's circle back now about your journey of those initial years, checking it out, taking the trainings. Did you know right away that you wanted to be a teacher of this
oh,
knowledge?
I had no plans on it.
Really?
None at all. No, 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 no. Um, when I was an actress, there was a thing they say, those who can act, those who can't teach.
Yes,
And
I know that saying. That's
and I
hilarious.
was like, there is no way I'm going to be a teacher of anything. I I'm an act.
Uh-huh.
Because I think part of it was that my concept of what teaching was somehow being reduced into this role where you're
Mm,
serving the students and serving the theme or the school or the this or that. And I have always needed to be a free agent.
mm.
It's not very easy for me to talk to my husband, I can never get you to do anything. And then I look at him, I go, but why would I want to do what you want me to do? I mean, I get confused at the accusation, doesn't make sense to me. And so, yeah, no, in fact, when I first, I mean, I wasn't sort of checking it out. I was full. on.
Mm, mm.
I just was watching it with my spleen. I was going, okay, I'm total here. But the first smell of manipulation, I'm out. Or
Yeah,
at least my alertness is engaged.
sure.
And and so I just it unfolded, because it was
Mm,
in
mm,
2005,
mm.
there was broken capacity of internet. It wasn't broken, but it was compared to what today we have is. And I did the first training or I think it was her first one, Linda ever did of analyst training.
Oh,
And so I'm did the training with a lot of people who are, in the field now. They're beautiful, wonderful human design analysts and teachers. And like Carol, for example, at the school,
mm,
we
mhm.
did the training together. And then I just progressed on, and I didn't have the money for Ra. And so, because his courses were really expensive, but I hungered for it. And
Mm.
so Jovian was amazing in allowing us to pay over time.
I see.
So I was
Mhm.
able to take a course and then make payments on it.
Mm, mm.
And and I don't know, I think I finished my analyst training. What would it have been in maybe '07 or something like that?
Huh.
And I didn't feel comfortable doing readings for people because I felt it was a lie for me to do that because I
Wow.
didn't have the knowledge I felt was necessary for me to give to them a reading that would has had been as empowering as mine was for me.
Mm,
So I mostly just offered, I was an analyst, but I offered free readings to people, because I
mhm,
wanted to keep training, I wanted to keep learning, I wanted to go deeper. I'm a projector.
mhm.
And then I I think it was actually while I was still in my analyst training, Raul offered the holistic analysis, and the only prereq was that you were in at least in the analyst training.
Mm.
And so I did it together with all the what they call what are the old gangsters, all the a
Oh,
Locke and
geez.
Linda and
Yeah.
all and all of them,
Yeah.
Kathy and I
Mm,
was clueless. I mean, it was way I jump in and I see water, it looks cool, I jump in, and
mhm.
then I figure out I don't know how to swim, right?
Oh,
Learn real quick. And so I was really grateful because Ross certified me. He actually
mm.
wrote me and said, "You have a gift for this knowledge." And
Oh,
that helped me to not be ashamed to offer it, right?
wow.
That there was a part of me that felt like, how can you offer it when you don't have what they have? Their knowledge, their
Mm,
experience, their backgrounds, their relationship with Ra, all the things.
mm.
I just thought, I mean, who am I? I'm just learning. I'm just learning.
Yeah.
And then Ra died.
Mm,
And I was devastated because I'd
mm,
finally found someone who I felt spoke truth
mm.
and taught truth. And so I was here in this office and I got the message on the computer, and I just got up from the computer and I went to my husband. I said, I don't want to live anymore.
Oh,
Because I thought, though I finally found someone who could clear the shit, all the shadow, all the
yeah.
stuff. And then he leaves. And my dad
Mm.
had just died in January, in March. I think it was
Wow.
March, right? And
Mm,
so I had been auditing Genoa at Human Design America.
mm,
I kept repeating again, I had to keep repeating in order to feel like I'm a cross of service, got to
mm,
repeat it to master it. So I contacted him and I said, can I just hang out with you guys? I just need to be with people who do this work.
mm,
And he said, sure. And so then over a year or so, I started assisting, and then I got certified. Genoa certified me all the way through PTL4.
mm,
And I worked for them, taught classes for them at Human Design America. And then Linda invited me into the international school to teach the cosmology courses. She was so cute. She said, I was trying to think of someone to kind of head this up that was mystical. And of course, immediately I thought of you. I thought, yeah, I
mm.
am kind of out there, right?
Yes.
Sort of live in the ether. And so that was just invitations that brought me into teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
You,
also that sense of loss when Ra passed,
mm,
because it was asking to join into the family of Human Design America. And
mm,
and it was beautiful. I really am grateful for that. Oh, and
uh,
you were saying your explanation
yeah.
with Chiron service. I'm service with Chiron individualism. I'm in
Hmm.
service of individualism, right?
Nice.
And so that's the
Yes.
journey. And so that's where I am now.
Oh, how perfect. How perfect. Yeah. I love Genoa. We've had some wonderful interactions. He began to offer foundations again. And so I missed ABCs, but I did cartography with him last year, and he is just phenomenal. The depth and the
Yeah.
layers that he and Lucita go to, so many extra layers of knowledge.
Yeah.
Quite incredible. So so the rave cosmology at IHDS, can you remember round about what time frame that was?
No, it was when we started the up. I think I had contacted Linda and I said, shouldn't we make cosmology a thing? Is how I put it,
Hmm. Uh-huh.
because it was sort of out there,
Yeah.
but it was just sort of resting out there. And I wanted
Mm.
to, like, let's make it something. And so then there began a progress of that. And I don't know when that was, 10 years ago, maybe.
Mm.
I'd have to
Mm.
go back and see how many times I've offered certain classes. And then,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's on my to-do list, Darshana. I think I've done just about everything else, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to study the whole cosmology. And I was chatting with Sean Michael. He's been through your classes, I'm sure, with the cosmology. He used to go by Sean Cook, but it's Sean Michael. He does quite
wow.
a lot at the BG5 Business Institute. And he's like, Mari, there's going to be a part there where it's kind of depressing, when you think about where like the program only has so many years for us. I'm like, yeah, it's way past our lifetimes. But no.
And
Mm.
and we don't stop. It just becomes silica-based existence instead of carbon-based.
Ah,
It's just evolution.
it's just evolution. I love how Ra called us this interregnum, right? The Homo sapien
Yeah,
intransitus,
yeah.
which is really when the rave babies start in 27, which is something I like to talk to you about if you have a wee bit more time. Are you okay on time?
I'm on my own, so I'm available for whatever fits for you.
We'll go just a wee bit more here. Sweet. So I would love to just visit a little bit about your articulation expression of the coming change. And just, well, I'll interject real quick. So I was mentioning about, I've done many programs with Dr. Andrea Reichel Wolf. I just adore her. So knowledgeable as well, like yourself. And I think one of the things that Dr. Andrea tries to really impart to those of us on this path of human design studies and those not is that that's the first time ever in the history of humanity that we're experiencing this global background frequency change, this shifting of the 412-year cycle, and the mutation of the solar plexus with this physiological new being going to be emerging. So that's kind of like, even though I've taken many, many courses around 2027 and I've bought some programs from Jovian and listened to Ra, and there's still an aspect where I just get stuck trying to explain because it's okay, G center has the locks and then you've got the keys and then it's moving this way and it's like, and I get too into the weeds trying to explain it, but I would just, whatever comes up for you, Darshana, that's your own kind of take on what's happening and what folks should know listening to this interview.
Well, I don't think we need to worry about the locks and the keys
Okay.
because I mean they're interesting and
Mm,
they explain a lot when we see what the current ones are and what it's moving into.
hmm.
But I think the easiest way to connect with it is through the crosses.
Yeah.
And so let's just jump back a bit to whenever Uranus was discovered, when the nine-centered being began. I always forget
1781.
81. Okay, I never remember the number.
17. Yeah, yeah.
I always go to 1776, and I was like, no,
Yeah.
that's the American Revolution. It was confusing.
Close.
So what happened then is something also very significant was a new type was evolved,
Mm.
and that's the projector. And the projector has never existed in a seven-centered conditioning field.
Mm.
We've got the conditioning field, but not in a seven-centered realm.
Yeah.
They're only here as nine-centered beings. All the other types were part of the seven-centered world. So when we entered into the Homo sapien intransitus and the nine-centered being, projectors came in as guides.
Mm.
Now, why that's significant is because Ross said that the projectors are here to be horizontal guides, right? And not vertical, not dominant. I know and you don't.
Mm.
But horizontal is like, oh, I have knowledge if it's useful kind of thing.
Yes.
And so here's the knowledge that is useful from the nine-centered, as well as she can be, projector, Darshana,
Uh-huh.
um, is that what we have happening, what we have had happening since we became nine-centered being is a stream that's called the mystical way.
Mm.
And the stream is about the movement through two tribal channels, through our natural innate capacity to be bonded with and support tribe and to be skillful in a collective way, using details and skills and things to build institutions, to build this whole amazing world that, in particular, the last 400 years has evolved into. And that's the cross of planning. That's where we've been. That's the conditioning field that we've been in.
Mm-hmm.
However, there hasn't really been a support other than the mystical stream to bring us into differentiation, to each of us individuate, to each of us embrace the love of our own being in
Mm.
its uniqueness, and to more and more connect to that. That's the channel, the last channel in the mystical stream is called the channel of awakening, the
Mhm.
behavior of the self, loving thisness now.
Mm.
And so we had the stream, and Ra called that a genetic imperative. All of us have had the pressure to move up the stream into individuation. It's been there. It has been a call for us all. And what we did is build religious structures and social structures and industrial structures and political structures and cultural and all these things. We've just built these amazing institutions and constructs that would help support our potential to individuate.
Mm.
But the shadow side of that and the seven-centered conditioning side of that is don't mess with this. Don't mess
Okay.
with my structure. Don't mess with my banking institution. Don't mess with
Mm.
my political job. Don't mess with family traditions. What are you doing? And the
Mm.
individual says, I'm not messing with it. I'm just being myself. I'm
Mm.
not doing this. I'm being this. And so now we have the cross of the phoenix coming in, the
Mm.
sleeping phoenix, with the 2034, which is an integration channel. It's the empowerment of the life force. The 34 is the gate of power, but it's not power of, it's power expressed as
Mm.
life force in the now. And it's called the channel of charisma, a design of where thoughts will become deeds, and nicknamed the channel of being busy. We hear a lot with the 2027. Ra said, everyone's going to be completely absorbed, self-empowered towards being themselves.
Mm.
How amazing is that? I
Yeah.
mean, let's say yay,
Exactly.
because that's what 400 years ago we came here in as a type to evolve into.
Mm.
Now, is it going to be painful and weird and complicated? It is right now. You can see it all
Mhm.
over the place.
Yeah.
But we can't we can't really deconstruct the structures that are so fiercely embedded in our conditioning, in our cells of that seven-centered, survival-oriented planning and Maya world
Mm.
without some real kick in the butt kind of stuff going on.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that we have the cross of penetration coming in and the cross of the sleeping phoenix and the gates that are there. In the phoenix, it's that 2034, it's gate 55, the gate that with the mystical stream ending. which
Mm,
is the 1949, is the pressure of the stream leading into the gate 49, the gate of higher principles of God, we could
mm,
say. Although Ross sometimes called it the God, another gate. But to me, this higher principles, this fear of nature, we've always been like, I got to do what they say or what it says because I don't know, I might get in trouble if I don't do it. You know, I'm afraid, like, if I don't believe in him, what if I'm wrong? You know, that
yeah.
that lurking fear in the background.
Mhm, mhm,
That 49 is going to go and hang out with the 55, which is the individual spirit of being, the
mm,
love of your own unique presence as an individual, that just being you here is a contribution.
mm.
That's it. That's all you got to do. Just be you. Ross said one time, people came and asked me, he goes, people are always asking me, how do I find my purpose? What's my purpose? He goes, living your design.
Oh,
I mean, be you. Then we
yeah.
all benefit. So that's
Mm,
what this coming 2027 is bringing us.
mhm,
And it's not, divorce is never easy, is it? We're
mm,
divorcing planning and
mhm.
and Maya, and we're, starting a whole new life story with
Yeah.
the Phoenix and the penetration. And being who I am, where I'm in service of individualism and my 54 moon enlightenment and darkenment that I'm driven by, it's like finally,
Mm,
oh, thank goodness, something will do it. Because all these studies, all these journeys for me have been what makes us so lonely and feel so inadequate and shamed and disempowered and wrong and all these things when the answer is I'm perfect. And yeah, it might not work in your world, okay. Then we go and work in a world where it does work for us. We don't
mhm,
have to deny ourselves to
mm,
belong. We belong to ourselves.
mm,
We're here equally with everyone else.
mhm.
So I don't know if that's sort of like with I always had a lot of flesh. My Mercury's in the gate of storytelling, the
I
50s.
love it. I love it. The
So I'm always telling
56.
stories. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it's just beautiful. I have 56 as well. You're just so phenomenal to listen to. You're just rich. You're very deep and rich and have a beautiful way of expressing and articulating. I feel like we could go longer. I think I better press the pause button. Before we wrap up here, Darshana, I would love to check in with you. We circle back to the IHDS, the International Human Design School, all of the different courses you teach, the PTL, that's professional training. If you want to be an analyst, you can study with Darshana, and then the Cosmology series. What else do you teach? You teach others at the IHDS?
I'm certified for other things as a teacher, but I'm pretty busy. I teach
Yeah.
I teach a lot, and then I have um, family. I have my grandson and my two granddaughters that were just born a year ago, twin manifestor babies,
Oh, I love
and
it.
a
I
projector
love it.
grandson. So,
Oh.
the girl who would never be in that tribe, who would never be a Cancer, who would never be, I've got a tribal channel. That woman that got reversed in the Uranus opposition and I re-met that part of me.
Mm.
Um, Half my life is for that. Half my life is for the family
Oh.
that I meet through human design. Because, I
Yeah.
mean, you work with me and I have a tendency to call you guys sweeties. And it's like, if you're with me, I'm in intimacy with you.
Mm.
That's how I can talk. And so if you're looking for someone who's a little more neutral, it might
Yeah.
not work to be with me. But but I care about you being an analyst because I want you to be able to bring the material forward.
Mm.
And I deeply care about you finding the depth within yourself of love and your uniqueness and your beauty and your capacity to walk through the world in your own moccasins, as they say in Native
Mm,
America,
yeah.
and with wholeness.
Mm, mm, yeah. Would just one final close on that note. What would you say, Darshana, if someone's watching this interview on YouTube or Facebook or where we put it out there for IHDS, and they're like, oh, they just are really resonating with this knowledge, potentially with your frequency as well. Like, why would they study at IHDS versus anywhere else? Like, what do you feel that sets the IHDS apart in terms of the trainings that it offers?
Um, for me, what sets it apart, which is why I'm there,
Mm,
is because it's raw.
yeah.
Because for me, what moved me, what healed, or what brought the potential for healing
Mm,
was what he transmitted.
mm,
And his invitation was for us to speak it from ourselves. So at IHDS, we teach the information that Ra gave us, and Linda is has been a brilliant holder in her 4-1 way of denying any kind of wandering outside, coloring outside the lines,
mm,
but not of our being able to communicate it through the uniqueness of our own being.
mm,
Each of us teaching the analyst training are different. Lynette's a
mm,
manifester and Brian's a generator. I'm a projector
mhm,
that are teaching at the school.
mm,
And so I love that we hold this still.
mm,
And I know that this is a certification program that is holding it so that we have the capacity to walk out the door with our certification and say, I've been educated and certified to teach this or to be an analyst in this through people who either first level or second level or third level worked with Ra or were trained by people who worked with Ra. And so, not to turn Ra into any kind of god or anything, because it's not about that. It's because he
no.
said, don't do that to me.
Yeah.
But because he spoke, he called it the voice because he lacked a better word for it.
Hmm.
It wasn't a voice. It was what he could use as a way of meeting it as
Hmm.
in his humanness.
Yeah.
But having worked as a channel and having worked, being sort of an intuit, um, I can sense that he read the construct or what he was given was a download of this construct, and he was able to 62 it out,
Yes.
put it
Yeah.
out into the world.
Yeah.
And there's such empowerment in the purity of this original knowledge from
Hmm.
him and
Yeah.
how it is embraced and embodied by each of us and speaking that frequency through our uniqueness, which is what the potential is for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how Ra as a 5-1, a fifth line would say he'd call himself human design's first messenger.
Mm.
And or first student even sometimes he would say. And I also just loved how he would say, don't believe a word I say. It's not a cult, it's not a belief system, it's not a faith, it's not a guruship. It's like you try it on for yourself and see, enter your experiment. I've always loved how it's called an experiment. And
That's
so
why I stayed. Remember I
yeah.
said I was looking for the lie?
Yeah.
There was nobody was selling anything.
Mm,
He
mm.
didn't say, yeah, it's gonna, really is going to do this. He just said, I don't know if you want to try it, do it. If not, go away. I don't think he said go away, but he
Yeah,
said,
yeah. It's just
then
not for
don't,
you.
you
Or
know,
no, the
follow your
timing's not
truth.
right. Follow your
Yeah.
truth. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Correct. I just love how they say in human design is, if it's correct for you. And this is part of my passion and weaving a near 20-year career in the world of social media marketing and now fusing it with now in my 6th year of human design studies. And so next year will be year 7, yay.
Uh-huh.
To integrate language that's more nine centered and it's more, would you like to join this program if it's correct for you and take your time? It's just astonishing to me how much pressure there is in the marketing world. It's like sign up now, and it's like no, maybe you sign up when and if it's correct for you,
There's no promises in this.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
manipulation is when people make promises. Oh, you'll be able to make more money. You'll be able to do this. You'll be able to do that. Who knows?
Mhm.
People say, well, I don't do readings much anymore because I'm so busy teaching. But I've had, people say, well, does it say when I'll meet somebody? Or
Oh,
does it
right.
say what I should do? And I said,
Uh-huh.
nope. Because you know who makes the decision about that? You. Is
Yeah.
there anyone else who can know what you're going to do? You don't even know what you're going to do. I mean, we
Yeah.
don't. We don't. And my husband sometimes he'll go, I mean, I know what you're going to say because I mean, I've been with you for so long. And I go, you know, I don't even know what I'm going to say because
Yeah.
it may, yeah, I might have certain tracks I run down all the time, but there's moments where it just changes, you know?
Mm. Mm.
And so, yeah, there's a lot of power in if it's correct for you to do the certification work, even if it's not, because I've had a lot of students over these years, and there are people who just do it, which is like what I did in the beginning,
Mhm.
because I knew knowing it would make a difference for me.
Mm.
And knowing it from people who are teaching it as a system that can be repeated, like someone can go out and bring it. That's what certification does. It's like you can bring it out from the way you received it instead of
Yes.
mutating it into something else.
Right.
And yeah,
Yeah.
so there's
Beautiful.
value in that if it's
Mm. If it's correct for you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Okay. So I'm going to make myself pause here because I feel like I could just take up so much more of your time. And you are just a delight to commune with, to converse with, and to bring forward some of your experience and your mutual passion and love for this knowledge. And really, really grateful for you on the planet, Darshana. And I'm so glad that our paths crossed and will continue to cross. So thank you
and
so
will.
much.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm grateful that also.